In the world of Mob Psycho 100, Espers are individuals with psychic powers that can manifest in a wide variety of forms. These psychic abilities range from standard telekinesis and telepathy to more unconventional psychic powers like chlorokinesis and even muscle mass expansion. Because these psychic powers can vary so much in their effects, it can feel like comparing apples and oranges to determine who is stronger. But because Mob Psycho is a battle-focused shonen, we get to see these characters test their skills and powers on the regular. Here are the 10 strongest Espers in Mob Psycho 100. Ritsu Kageyama may be the first on this list, but considering how many incredibly strong Espers exist in Mob Psycho, that's far from an insult. While he may not stack up to his older brother Mob, Ritsu is undoubtedly one of the strongest Espers around. Ritsu didn't traditionally awaken his psychic powers, as it took him overcoming Dimple's mind control to fully realize his potential. Nowadays, Ritsu doesn't need Dimple to activate his Esper powers, and has established himself as one of the most powerful psychics in Mob Psycho. Focusing on telekinesis, Ritsu is a hard-hitting fighter, able to fling people and even heavy objects like cars with relative ease. Like his brother Mob, Ritsu also has access to a secret meter that gives him an incredible buff to his power when it hits 100%. Ritsu is believed to have incredible potential for growth, and he'd likely find himself much higher up on this list given enough time. For now, Ritsu firmly places himself in the top 10 most powerful Espers in the series. While on the surface he may look like the classic shonen trope of the shaggy blonde-haired rival, Teru stands out from the trope, especially when you consider just how much that hair has been through. Jokes aside, Teru is a deserving rival for Mob and a top-tier Esper in his own right. Just like many anime rivals, it took one solid beatdown from the protagonist, and losing his hair, for Hanazawa to go from an antagonist to a rival. In contrast to Ritsu's shallow pool of abilities, Teru has a handful of powerful and potentially fatal abilities he can employ at a moment's notice. Teru has access to standard abilities such as telekinesis, but he can also employ devastating attacks via his pyrokinetic and telekinetic explosion abilities. And that's not even mentioning his mastery of the air whip ability. Teru may have been an ego-driven hothead, but he had the power to back it up, and he's only gotten stronger since. Hiroshi is an interesting case when talking about relative strength in the series. This is because nowadays he could actually be considered one of the weakest characters in the series. However, in his prime, Hiroshi Shibata was an absolute monster. Hiroshi was so strong that he was part of the Radical Claw organization's Ultimate 5 group of elite Espers. Unlike most of the other Espers in the series, Hiroshi's psychic powers are focused entirely on his strength and martial abilities. The easiest way to describe Hiroshi's abilities would be to think of the Incredible Hulk and, actually just imagine the Hulk minus the green skin. But whereas the Hulk gets his power from anger and gamma radiation, Hiroshi's strength comes from the expert psychic manipulation of his muscle mass. With his psychosteroid ability, Hiroshi is able to exponentially increase his muscle mass, giving him radically increased strength and durability. It took an awakened Mob to put Hiroshi down for good, and he hasn't recovered since. Nowadays, Hiroshi can't hold a candle to his prime, but he was so strong that he deserves a spot on this list. If it wasn't clear already, psychic powers can be utilized in a wide variety of ways in the world of Mob Psycho 100, and few psychic abilities are as unique or varied as the chlorokinesis of the Ultimate 5's Toshiki. Toshiki may not be the most upbeat or lively member of Claw, but he's got the skills to make up for his antisocial nature. While most Espers use their psychic powers in more traditional ways like telekinesis, Toshiki carves out a respectable niche. He has the ability to create and control all manner of plants. He's so skilled in chlorokinesis that he was able to effortlessly defeat 3 former Claw members while in an urban area with no plants in sight. His plant-focused power is so substantial that Toshiki would be able to create a jungle out of asphalt if he wanted. Eventually, Toshiki left Claw and moved on to become, what else? A florist. He certainly has a green thumb if nothing else. Shimazaki is the certified cool guy of the Ultimate 5, with his laid-back demeanor and a classy outfit to boot. He's also cocky and confident in his abilities, as many anime cool guys are, but he was more than capable of backing up his attitude with his incredibly powerful psychic abilities. His abilities are largely defensive focused, giving him an edge when it comes to avoiding or negating damage. He has a Spidey Sense-like ability that helps him predict and react to incoming attacks quickly and effortlessly. When that's not enough, he can even teleport at will in the blink of an eye. However, his most iconic ability comes in the form of his Mind's Eye. This ability helps him perceive attacks more quickly and know exactly where and what espers around him are doing. In video game terms, this basically amps his agility up to 11 and gives him an increased critical hit chance. However, this ability only lets him perceive other espers and leaves him vulnerable to attacks by non-espers. With all these abilities, it's no surprise that he's seen as the strongest member of the Ultimate 5. As the son of the big bad of Mob Psycho 100, Sho Suzuki is one of the strongest espers in the entire series. However, Sho fought against his father's dastardly plans for world domination, which is fortunate when you consider how powerful he is. While Sho may not have shared the same goals as his father, he was often ruthless and relentless to anyone who got in his way. This led him to butting heads with many other espers, including his father, who was too strong for Sho to handle alone. Sho has an interesting variety of abilities that he employs, from standard telekinesis to more interesting talents like light distortion, which renders him effectively invisible. Sho also shares a talent with his father in the form of psychic energy storage, which he can release as a charge bomb. While he isn't quite on the same power level as his father, if Sho had chosen to lead Claw alongside him, the organization would have been much more powerful for it. Insert your favorite "it's a good thing he's on our side" joke here. Katsuya is the perfect example of someone who has a good heart that does bad things. And it's a relief that he's got a good heart, because if he had his mind set on evil, he could do untold amounts of damage. But once he breaks free of Claw's influence, Katsuya is able to become his own person. And it's no surprise why Claw was so intent on getting him to their side, as he is without a doubt one of the strongest espers in the world of Mob Psycho. So much so that he was terrified of his abilities and the destruction they could cause if fully unleashed. Unlike many other espers, Katsuya channeled his psychic powers through his umbrella, kind of like a certain half-giant from Harry Potter. Through this umbrella, he can channel incredibly powerful psychokinesis, which can make for an effective melee and ranged weapon that's proficient in both attack and defense. Nowadays, Katsuya doesn't have a need for the umbrella, as he's gained more control over his immense power. Keiji may not look like much, but underneath his normal guy facade, Keiji is easily one of the strongest espers in the entire series. And he isn't even a human to boot. He's actually an evil spirit, so it almost seems unfair he gets to be so high up on this list. Nonetheless, his powerful abilities speak for themselves, human or not. His esper abilities were so strong that he was considered to be the greatest psychic of the 20th century. He was originally born as a human with his psychic abilities already manifested. He could see spirits and used this ability to help people via advice and counseling. Unlike many other espers, Keiji's combat abilities are based on his connection with the spirit world. Just like Dimple, he can possess people and amplify their powers with his own, and even create a mindscape that creates a simulation of reality. Perhaps his most terrifying ability, however, is his life force absorption, which drains the life out of people around him. He is not someone, or more accurately, something that you want to mess with. As the certified big bad of the series, it's not a shock that Toichiro is only rivaled by the series protagonist. Toichiro is the strongest esper in this series, save for one, and he has no problem letting it be known. He has an incredible superiority complex and believes himself to be above the rest of humanity. Toichiro comes with an incredibly wide pool of abilities that he can draw from. These powers vary from telekinesis, energy blasts, and an atomic barrier to crazy energy manipulation powers, gravity manipulation, and a power output control that gives him complete control over how much energy he expends. With an insane number of powerful abilities and a ridiculous power output, this villain easily earned his spot as the most powerful esper in the series. Well, save for the series protagonist himself. Was there ever any doubt? Mob, aka Shigeo Kageyama, is the protagonist of the series, and he brings more than enough raw power along with a wide array of abilities to the table. On the surface, Mob may just seem like nothing more than a run-of-the-mill middle school student, but when his Esper abilities manifest, he proves to be so much more. Ironically, Mob doesn't believe that psychic powers should be used against another person. But even with that mental handicap, he has proven himself capable of going toe-to-toe against the strongest Espers in the series and coming out on top. While Mob has a bevy of useful psychic abilities, his most notable and arguably most powerful ability comes from his psychic energy absorption. When Mob reaches 100% of his power with this ability, there is very little that can stop him. In fact, Mob is so powerful that his raw psychic power can form an entirely separate entity. This form is a completely unrestrained version of Mob, also able to use his power to its absolute fullest. What else is there to say? It's Mob. His name is in the title of the series. Of course, he's the most powerful Esper in Mob Psycho 100. Espers in Mob Psycho perform some amazingly powerful feats, but few are even close to the top 3 on this list. Unlimited power is cool and all, but I'd be happy just to have telekinesis. Energy blasts don't seem all that practical in everyday life, right? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching CBR.